Making its way through the trees, we see the Mega Sloth for the first time. We've only really seen the creature briefly in shots of it walking and using its long arms to attack. The creature's appearance may be deceiving in its initial cute and cuddly nature because its unnatural brute strength it imposes is strong enough to knock back even the strongest tree. There's an air of mystery as to how this Mega Sloth came to be in West Virginia. Some think that it could have escaped from a zoo or migrated from the south, but that doesn't necessarily explain the sloth's humongous nature. Is the sloth growth a product of fallout radiation, or has it been around even longer than that? Like other great mythical West Virginia tales, this one starts in a little town known as Point Pleasant, West Virginia, with a man named John Stewart. John Stewart was a Revolutionary War veteran who was famous for having commanded American forces at the Battle of Point Pleasant in 1774. Later in 1777, continuing his stationing at Point Pleasant, he royally screwed up and slaughtered 4 Shawnee Native Americans who had come from Ohio to make peace with the American forces. The dead included one of the most famous Shawnee chiefs, Hokolasekwa, which roughly translates to cornstalk, and his son, who had been there to parley with the British or American government. Upon hearing the news of the slaughter, Patrick Henry and the Continental Congress tried to denounce the actions of John Stewart, but open conflict with the local Shawnee continued through 1777 to 1778 across West Virginia. After John Stewart fought in the Battle of Fort Donnelly in Greenbrier County against the Shawnee, he decided to settle down in the neighboring area. The town of Lewisburg was officially established and appointed John Stewart among their trustees. John continued to be involved in the community, as well as an active supporter of the new American government. One day while exploring the area around his new home, Stewart stumbled upon a salt cave and found the bones of a particularly unusual animal. He brought it home and wrote about his discovery to one of his most intelligent friends, Thomas Jefferson. He didn't see much need of these bones, so he sent the bones to Jefferson. This jump-started Jefferson's long-time quest to find evidence of a beast long forgotten, to further research his theory that was deeply debated at the time: extinction. At first, Jefferson thought he had discovered the remains of a giant and dangerous lion that once roamed America. He was ultimately searching for the remains or evidence of mammoths or mastodons, which he theorized resided in North America at one time. He wrote in his notes, "In fine, the bones exist. Therefore, the animal has existed. The movements of nature are in a never-ending circle." In 1797, Jefferson presented the fossil to the American Philosophical Society, which he named the animal Megalonyx. The Society's minutes recorded that after this meeting, 2 resolutions were made. 1. To send the memoir to the Publications Committee, and to engage an artist to illustrate the bones. The second, to have the bones to be put in best order for the Society's use. Later on, in 1803, Thomas Jefferson brokered one of the largest land deals in history. He bought the Louisiana Territory for $15 million American dollars. In 2016, this was equivalent to about $573 billion. The territory contained 15 present states, as well as 2 parts of the Canadian territories. Originally, the U.S. government just wanted to purchase the New Orleans port, but the French government cut the U.S. a deal. Before the purchase was finalized, the decision faced opposition from the Federalist Party. They claimed that it was unconstitutional to acquire any territory. Jefferson agreed with them and changed the wording of the deal to be an official treaty to which he had complete constitutional power over. He was determined to own this land, and so the treaty was eventually signed. In 1804, Jefferson commissioned the Corps of Discovery Expedition, also known now as the Lewis and Clark Expedition. The purpose of the expedition was to establish trade routes, but Jefferson had other plans. He tasked them with journaling all flora and fauna they encountered, as well as collecting samples. In Jefferson's heart of hearts, he believed that Lewis and Clark would stumble upon the living Megalonyx, proving his growing theory that extinction was holistically wrong. The expedition lasted 2 years, and the team met their goal of reaching the Pacific Ocean. While the expedition had established diplomatic relations and trade routes with several Native American tribes, he was dismayed that the expedition returned little results as to the origin and nature of the Megalonyx. Later on, Jefferson even sent Clark on a special mission to Big Bone Lick in Kentucky to collect bone samples. He collected 300 bones, which upon Jefferson's rearrangement became the first full remains discovered of the American mastodon. Jefferson had achieved a great success across multiple fields, but the search for the Megalonyx would go on to be the one endeavor he failed to complete. In 1822, the Megalonyx was renamed Megalonyx jeffersoni. It was found to have been a large, ground-based sloth displaced across America by the Ice Age. The sloth dwelled primarily in woodlands, and due to the shape of the teeth, they primarily ate leaves, twigs, and possibly nuts. Unlike other ground sloths, this species walked flat on the soles of their hind feet and were also able to stand on their hind legs. Jefferson's ground sloth had the widest range of all North American ground sloths. They have even been recovered from over 150 sites across the United States, as well as Canada and Mexico. At the White Sand Trackway in New Mexico, which is one of the largest concentration of human and Ice Age megafauna, there has most recently been a discovery that early humans may have been tracking a ground sloth on a hunt. This would have made for a fierce foe for these early humans, so sneak attacks with several hunters would likely have been the best course of action. The tracks also show evidence of evasive and defensive behavior by the sloth. The species is theorized to have been extinct by the end of the Pleistocene. In 2008, the State Senate of West Virginia ratified a resolution to make the Megalonyx jeffersoni the state fossil of West Virginia. Before Jefferson's death, he wrote to John Adams that he may have been wrong about extinction after all. Here's an excerpt from that letter. Stars, well known, have disappeared. New ones have come into view. Comets, in their incalculable courses, may run foul of suns and planets and require renovation under other laws. Certain races of animals are become extinct, and, were there no restoring power, all existences might extinguish successively, one by one, until all should be reduced to a shapeless chaos. So irresistible are these evidences of an intelligent and powerful agent that, of the infinite number of men who have existed through all time, they have believed, in the proportion of 1,000,000 at least to unit, in the hypothesis of an external pre-existence of a creator, rather than in that of a self-existent universe. Across West Virginia and other parts of the world, there have been sightings of large man-like creatures covered in fur. A good portion of people call these creatures Bigfoot. But it could be something else. Could the giant ground sloth still be alive? Could a world void of humanity for a near 25 years produce the correct conditions for these creatures to reemerge? Could radiation increase the amount of ground sloths lurking in dense forest of the world? That remains to be seen, but we will all find out when the doors to 76 finally open.
This video of Wasteland Zoology was produced in collaboration with Vault Boys WV. These guys are local West Virginians and produce a weekly podcast that dives deep on West Virginia lore and how it connects to Fallout 76. They talk more about the Mega Sloth and other subjects such as private detectives, secret bunkers, and the occasional banjo tune. They are on iTunes, Android, and wherever you get podcasts. Subscribe and follow them for weekly content on Fallout 76.